Okie Country, 101.7 continuous country, and that is now is 8:22. Then that over there is Lauren Rich Consulting. Joining me. How are you this morning?
You know they can't see us, right?
I know, right? It's called Theater of the Mind. She's right over there.
Right over there, that away.
In everyone's mind, they're picturing something, no
Yes.
matter where. And
Yes.
some people have you a long way away, others. So what are we talking about today?
Men witnessing violence against women, primarily in the workplace.
Right, like
And,
law enforcement.
Like law enforcement, military personnel, those kinds of things. It definitely applies to both categories this time. We are in such a world where you can Google violence against women and it will show everything about men being violent toward women. Some of it even said, in looking at things in the past, men have done little to reduce violence toward women, which I personally think is just an outright insult to the good men who are out there, because
Right.
not all men are violent. But we have this odd perception or small segment of society that thinks that every man is violent, and that is not the case.
Right.
But more importantly, the men who are in law enforcement or who are in the military and those who witness violence toward women
And especially repeatedly, right?
repeatedly, oh my gosh, of all the stuff that comes in my office, violence toward women and children are always the worst.
Can't
Always.
imagine.
Trauma, that type of trauma is always the worst. So in thinking about that, you have to realize one thing is that men are naturally protectors. That's what any man who is worth a darn is not going to let a woman be in pain or suffer in any way.
Always willing to
Always,
protect.
always willing to protect. And I don't think we give men credit enough for that. So that's something to consider. But in law enforcement, especially when you witness women being violated, even murdered or dismembered, those kinds of things, that really sticks with you, and that will create a lot of anger toward the rest of society.
Well, I'm not trying to say be bad in any way, but I think it would bother me if I saw that happen to a man or a woman. I don't think it really makes a
It
difference. to
would,
me.
but that's interesting that you bring that up, because in
It's
military life, and in certain extent law enforcement, you can watch your buddy be shot and you'll be okay with it, because the war rages on, so to speak, and
Right.
you're just going to go seek revenge. But if you watch a woman get hurt, it completely changes the paradigm shift.
I'm sure that
altogether.
I get what you're saying, because my dad was a World War II sailor, and the thing that he would not talk about, thing that bothered him the most, and he'd witnessed a lot in World War II, he was at Okinawa, he was at Philippines, he was at all these places, was a woman that was deceased, and it reminded him of his mother,
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
I don't think he ever got past it. He never, ever, Lauren, ever talked about it.
Ever talked about? I don't even know how you knew that much. but,
Well,
you know.
Dad spoke one time about it, and very little detail,
Mhm.
and
Vague,
that
ambiguous,
was-
but you got the
yes,
idea.
Yeah,
Yes.
knew what he was talking about, and
And-
that was good enough for us. We
And
left
that's
that
the
alone.
kind of stuff that makes you realize how cruel humans can be to
Mhm.
other humans. And yet here we are, again, that certain tiny sect of our population griping about toxic masculinity. What a line of garbage.
Mhm.
Absolute garbage. We have men and women out there every single day serving and protecting us, whether they are enlisted or whether they are in law enforcement. And that is not toxic masculinity.
Right.
In no way, shape, or form is that toxic masculinity.
What would be classified toxic?
I don't even want to go there.
masculinity?
I don't even want
Maybe
to go
we could
there
do it.
because it's not true.
Why don't
It's
we
a
do
line
a
of
show
garbage.
about that sometime?
We can.
Because there's obviously a lot there.
We can.
I
but
do feel as a man you almost have to squelch your the part of you that is masculine, and when I say aggressive and fierce, I don't mean to hurt anyone, but we want to pursue, we want to win, we want to provide, we want to protect, we want to do all of these things, and to do that you can't timidly with your head down walk up and go, hey, do you mind if I
But
if I
society
protect my
and psychology, I have to blame a lot of this on the world of psychology, is that, again, we have feminized men to think that they should be that way.
Right.
And scientifically or biologically, the major difference between you and me, obviously besides genetics and genitalia, is that you are constantly producing testosterone. Constant. It never ends. And so naturally, your level of competitiveness or aggression or even, I'm going to say, fly by the seat of the pants mentality. Assertiveness
might
yes.
be, maybe, because it's not
is
aggressive
constant.
like I'm aggressive, but I'm constantly thinking,
but it is to a certain
challenging.
extent, because I hate to be this way, but you are a primal creature, Cliff. And,
Well, yes,
and primal
they are.
creatures are all about survival, right?
Right.
Okay, so in that sense, then yes, you are. It really is about survival. And because you're constantly producing testosterone, your point of view of the world is different than mine, and there is no fault in that. That's how we were both created.
That's what's got us here.
But we have a lot of men out there who are really good at what they do, and they are having to suffer in silence by witnessing repeat trauma toward women. And nothing will make you hate the world more than witnessing violence toward women and children.
And officers, for example, that respond to stuff like that, they're not the ones that ultimately get to do anything about it. They're there to document it, to handle it, and they see it over and over and over.
And that's the thing, is that it ends up impacting our belief system. And because I could not stop it, because I could not change it, because I could not make it better, I'm helpless. If I'm not helpless, then I'm weak or I'm incompetent, and so it's a distorted view. I mean, I've talked to people before who, their stance on violence is that we have to stop it before it happens.
Right.
And that's a great concept. I wish the world really was that way, but the world will never be that way.
Right.
The world will always be a violent, dangerous place. Why? Well, because we're all fighting for survival.
Right. Crazy, isn't it? And you work with these all the time now. Either you can be that way as obviously a soldier, vet, or you can be going in law enforcement and see that, or you could be in a household that you have to repeatedly see mom
and the
or sisters
ironic part about that is a lot of times the guy you're wrestling to the ground who is inflicting violence on a woman has witnessed that same violence be perpetrated on his mother, sister, grandmother, whatever it may be.
So you got to break the cycle.
Yeah, you really do have to think about where did they learn that behavior, where did that become acceptable, and how do we challenge that, but still hold people accountable for behavior. As far as the aftermath goes, I've had guys come back from Iraq or Afghanistan and seen violence against women, and they to the point where the woman, I shouldn't even call her a woman. The one in particular I'm thinking about was an adolescent female who had her face exposed to American soldiers, and they took her out back and they stoned her to death.
It's just
And
unbelievable.
when you come back from that, I can completely understand why you can't sit through your daughter's gymnastics class. I can see why children screaming in the grocery store is a problem. And to know that that can be fixed, that we can make it better, is very doable, and it's very possible. Do it all the time. But you have to be ready to make that decision. The issue with law enforcement is that those will compound over time, because you're going to see women be beat or mutilated or whatever it may be on a 20-year career basis. And so that will really take its toll if you don't watch out. But to go back to the original topic of, there are really good men out there doing really good work, and they deserve to have that work be supported and to actually have some resolution to that trauma.
And there are answers and resolution to all of that. Now,
Absolutely.
Rich Consulting, it's the name of your practice.
It is, but it's really me.
It's just Lauren Rich.
It is, it's just me.
How does somebody find out more? I know you'd always be willing to talk to somebody, find out if therapy is right for them.
Sure, absolutely. They can always call me 918-912-2266. But if you don't want to do that, you can always go follow us on YouTube. And last week I put one up when we were out. And it's about the belief system and really challenging safety versus security. And if safety is even a real place. Does safe even exist in the world? And for a lot of people, it doesn't.
Really?
So you can find that one on YouTube.
Wow, check it out. And next Monday, we'll be back. What's our topic?
Yes.
Are you bringing back law enforcement?
Probably witnessing violence toward children.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's an even bigger impact.
It's coming up next Monday, so don't miss it. Rich Consulting, find her on all social media, and make a phone call. It's a great way. What's the number again?
918-912-2266, or just hop on YouTube. It's Rich Consulting.
Rich Consulting. Thanks a lot. Lauren Rich, our guest this morning on Okie Country 101.7. Coming up next, IC.